John Luss here of Luss Archery Adventures. Serious testing, successful hunting. Thanks so much for tuning in once again. I really appreciate all the support that you've been giving me just by watching the videos, sharing them with your friends, making comments, subscribing. Many of you have donated broadheads for me to test. I really appreciate all that. If you've not yet subscribed, please hit the subscribe button and also hit the little bell so you can be notified whenever I post a new video. I've got another cool broadhead test for you today. I know I say that all the time, okay, but I really like testing these broadheads, and some of the designs are really cool. This is another one by New Era Archery. They make the Zeus broadhead, and I tested that a while back. Maybe you saw that. It was a couple of years ago. I should probably update that and test it again with my newer protocol. But this is the counterpart, okay? It's another broadhead they've come out with called the Hera. Okay, it's called Hera. So Zeus, as you know, is this Greek god, and then Hera is his wife. She's the queen of all the gods. Zeus is the king of the gods, and Hera is the queen of the gods. And so the thought being this is the counterpart to the Zeus, and with these two, you have everything you need to rule the broadhead universe, okay, so to speak, okay? But anyway, the design of it, man, it's got some really cool features. So we're going to zoom on in here and go through some of those design features and specifications, and then we're going to put it to the test using my protocol for 2022. And you can read about that in the description of this video. Just click on the title there on your mobile device, and in the description will come up all the different tests, why I do them, how I do them, what the tests mean, as well as the scores of how each of the broadheads does in those tests, as well as the price per individual broadhead. I always put the price in all the different videos. I've been doing that throughout 2022. And I'm going to be using my Bowtech CP28, set at 72 pounds, 27-inch draw for most of the shooting. And I'm using the Bishop FOC King arrows for most of the shots, but then I'm using the Bishop Thad eliminators for the really hard impact shots because they can handle it. All right, let's zoom on in here and check out this Hera broadhead. Here's a good look at the Hera. Now this is the 125 grain version. They also make a 100 grain version that's basically the same. It just has a smaller tip to it. So there's so much going on with this broadhead, so many features. I hope I can remember them all. Let's start with the materials. The ferrule is made out of a 70-75 aluminum, which, like I always say, if you're going to use aluminum for weight purposes to save on weight, 70-75 is the way to go. It's much stronger than 60-61. It's stronger than some steels even. And you notice that overall it's pretty short. It's shorter than the original Zeus, which is going to make it a bit more durable as well. And then you notice that it's extra thick, it's extra fat in the vented area where the blade assembly is. And that's going to give it a little more durability in that area. Now I do wonder how durable it's going to be at this narrower throat. Usually it's the narrowest part that has the biggest challenge on a hard impact or an angled impact. So we'll have to see. But overall, it looks to be a pretty durable ferrule. Now it's got this tip, again, the 125 grain tip is like an oversized tip, and they're using this instead of the bleeders that the Zeus had because it still gives you a cut of, by my measurements, 0.37 inches. So kind of like it serves like bleeders, but even more than that, it being rounded like that, it opens up a channel wider than the shaft of the arrow. And that keeps, that helps it to penetrate really well because it reduces the friction on the arrow shaft. Like the friction on the arrow shaft as it penetrates through some mediums like bone and harder tissue, it really impedes the penetration. But when you have a fatter tip, some people think a fatter tip is going to hurt the penetration. It actually helps it in many mediums because it reduces that friction on the arrow shaft, and it usually helps in flight as well. And this tip is made out of a 4140 steel, which is a really good steel to use, and it's hardened to a Rockwell of 50. So the geometry of it, as well as the quality of steel, is going to make this a really good tip, I would imagine. I like that design. And you also notice it has little channels. It's got 8 channels in this tip, and that serves a couple purposes. First of all, as it rotates in flight, it's going to serve like dimples on a golf ball. and allow the air to circulate around and keep it from planing off track and keep it on course. And then it's also going to aid in bloodletting a bit as it penetrates. Now, the blades themselves have a cutting diameter of 1.5 inches, which is a lot for a fixed blade broadhead. There's not many fixed blade broadheads that have that wide of a cut. I know it looks like a mechanical, but it's not. It's a fixed blade. These don't open or close. They're in that position. But it's got that full 1.5 inch cut, and yet it's a really narrow blade, so there's not much surface area. A lot of times if you go with a big wide cut like that, you're getting big thick blades, and that impedes penetration, and it makes it harder in flight. It makes it less forgiveness in flight because it planes. But these are so narrow, there's so little surface area, I would imagine it's going to fly really well. And it also has these holes in it. Now the holes serve to save a little bit on weight, and it also serves to aid as it flies in letting air circulate through that, so it's less apt to plane off course. And yet I would imagine they'd be relatively quiet too, because it's not like a full venting going on, and more durable than if it was fully vented. The blades are 0.035 inches thick, and they're single bevel sharpened, which is really cool. So I'd imagine we're going to get a bit of rotation on this as well. We'll have to test that. And it's going to be really easy to resharpen these tips, and they're replaceable as well. You can get a whole blade assembly replacement kit, but it looks like they're going to be pretty easy to resharpen those. So, but the coolest thing about this head, or the most unique thing, is that in addition to all those features, it has what they call this smart blade technology. And what that means is inside the ferrule, there's a few bearings and a spring. And what that does is, if the blades hit something really hard, then they're going to compress a spring, and they're going to come back a bit and retract just a bit from their full opening position of 1.5 inches. And then as it passes through that medium with the retracted blades, then they're going to spring back from that tension of the spring to their full open position. So that's going to do two things. One, it's going to aid in penetration through that really tough medium because it'll have less of a cut, but then it will also protect the strength of the blades, because rather than feeling that full impact of a hard impact, they're going to have a little bit of give to them. So I like that design. I wonder how durable it's going to be with all that going on inside the ferrule. We'll have to see that. But if it is durable, and it does seem like it takes a lot of force to close them a bit, that could be a really good feature. So everything about these broadheads seem to be focused on penetration and flight. And so I'm really eager to put it to the test and see how these Heras perform. $250. It penetrated 8.5 inches. And here you can see a picture that shows that 8.5 inches better. You can see how it had a cut that extended beyond the end of the broadhead. That's because it penetrates, and then sometimes the gel forces it back a little bit. $325. It penetrated through 73 layers. Wow. It rotated 26 degrees at 12.5 inches. It's in perfect shape after 3 shots through the MDF. After 2 shots through the steel plate, it held together very well. You can see a bit of edge chatter there on the blade edges themselves, but otherwise in great condition. Here you can see the wound channel in the steel plate, and you see that really nice big hole from the tip. And then you can see the blades retracted a little bit by design just to help them with that penetration, but still a decent wide cut and a really classic S-shaped cut from that single beveling. Here's the head after going through the MDF 3 times and the steel plate 2 times, and then into the concrete. On the negative side, you can see that it broke at that ferrule, that aluminum ferrule just kind of sheared off, it bent and then sheared off right there. On the positive side is the entire tip is really like in great condition, and the whole blade section is still together. So all of this embedded pretty deeply into the concrete, which was pretty impressive. So I'd say, you know, the durability overall is really good. Don't be a fool just thinking it failed because it broke. A lot of heads don't even make it to the concrete round, and then a lot of them just shatter into a lot of pieces. Now, it didn't hold together like some have done, but it did pretty well for not holding together like that. So again, overall, pretty impressive durability here. So what'd you think of the Hera? Hey, I tell you what, I'm really impressed with this broadhead. I didn't know what to expect, but when I first took it out of the package, I thought, ooh, this is pretty interesting. And then the more I've tested it, the more impressed I've really become with it, because you get a really wide cut and a really big tip, and yet excellent flight and excellent penetration and really good durability all at the same time. And then the ability of the blades to compress just a little bit if needed on a super hard impact and yet spring back. Man, there's just a lot to like. Oh, and then getting the rotation of a single bevel to boot on top of all that. I'm really eager to put this thing through an animal, all right? I wanna try to shoot a deer with it this season. But you know, I like this broadhead so much that I reached out to the company and asked them if they'd be willing to give me a discount code that I could pass on to you as the viewer. And I only do that with broadheads that I really, really like and am willing to endorse. I know no broadhead's perfect, but if they're a direct-to-consumer company and I really like them, then sometimes I reach out like that. And so they agreed. And so if you use the discount code LUSK5, LUSKFIVE, on their website of New Era Archery, then you get $5 off any package. So, hey, you know, every little bit helps. Why not save that? So you check out the score sheet and see how it performed in the areas that matter to you the most and see if it might be a really good fit for you. But this is definitely something worth checking out. Great job, New Era Archery with the Hera, and I look forward to seeing even more stuff you come out with in the future.